Buongiorno, my name is Ron Falconi and I'm the host of Meet Your Neighbor. I live here in the city of Brunswick. Yes, Brunswick, one of the top 10 towns in America for families, according to Family Circle magazine. One of the top 25 towns in America for an affordable home, according to CNN Money. I live here in Brunswick with my family in the Fairways subdivision of our great city, and I've had this idea back in the fall of 2006 where I wanted to invite people from the community to come down to the Brunswick area television studio so all of you could meet your neighbor. We have a very special guest today. Her name is Joyce Kapui, and she's a retired French teacher from Mid-Park High School.
Yes.
Mrs. Kapui, welcome to the studios.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure to be
Pleasure
here.
is mine, Mrs. Kapui.
Thank
How are
you.
you today?
I'm great, except I have a broken toe.
Oh, no.
Yes.
What happened?
It's like I was playing with my grandkids, playing horsey with my grandkids, and my toe
no.
ran into, I was going a little too fast, I guess. Ran into the wall or something, but it's healing. By the grace of God, it's healing, so
That's
happy.
good. Mrs. Kapui, can you tell us something about yourself that not that many people know about?
You know, I asked my husband, I was asking my husband, thinking, I can't think of, I thought for a long time, but he said, you know, everybody knows, anybody that knows you knows everything about you. So I really can't think of anything that, that everybody doesn't know. And if you don't know it, you probably ask somebody else that does know it. So.
Mrs. Kapui, you alluded to this before, but can you tell me about your family?
Certainly. We have, my husband and I actually, 50 years ago, God sent him from Germany, from Deutschland, to meet me. I picked him up roller skating at Denison Rollercade in Cleveland, and I picked him up. He's just a cute kid there, but didn't know I would wind up marrying him, but we've been married now for 42 years.
42 years?
42 years in August, and we have 2 daughters.
2 daughters?
And each daughter has 3 children.
Okay. Your daughters live here in the area, or do they live...
One lives here in the area, in Medina, and the other one lives in, actually 4 years ago, her husband wound up getting a job opportunity out in Bella Vista, Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
So she's out there.
Where do you live now?
We live on Substation Road.
Okay, is that in Brunswick Hills Township?
That's Brunswick Hills, yes.
How long have you lived out there?
Well, actually we live 4 doors up, where the other daughter lives now with her family, back in 1977. We moved out here to, my husband and I always wanted horses. We used to ride. Neither one of us had them. Well, when he was back in Germany, he was young. He came here when he was, I think, 9. But they had some farm animals there. But we always liked riding and didn't have them. So that was a game plan. And we wound up moving out here, looking for property, and finding some on Substation Road back in 77. He and his uncle built the house, and we've had horses ever since.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Actually, we taught lessons out of that place for a long time. We had horseback riding lessons, not intending to, but we had an opportunity to, by the grace of God, share the joy of the horses.
Oh, wow.
It was fun.
Mrs. Kapui, how did you decide on becoming a teacher?
Enrico Molinari.
Enrico Molinari.
Yeah, you started in Italian, didn't you? Now, Enrico Molinari was my French teacher. I just took French because my older sister took French, and I thought she would help me with my homework, and she probably did, but I don't remember. And not because I loved French, but that man, he was from Italy, and he just turned language alive at Marshall. John Marshall High School is where I graduated. I just really liked it. And he asked me one time, I don't know if I was a junior, maybe even a sophomore, what I was going to do after high school. I wasn't sure, but I had the opportunity to go to college, and I didn't know what I would choose. But he said, if you don't think of anything else to do, why not consider your favorite subject? And I think he probably knew I enjoyed French. And he said, why not consider your favorite subject and think about teaching it? So that's what I wound up doing. And it was wonderful. I just really had a bunch of good teachers at Kent. I went to Kent State. And had an opportunity there in my 3rd year to go to France for the summer. And that was exciting. I was 21, and that was exciting. But that's why I wound up teaching it, just because Enrico Molinari made our class come alive. I mean, we used the language. We sang, we talked, we played games. Obviously, vocabulary and grammar are important, but they're not the most important thing. It's communication.
Wow.
So there, long answer to a very short question. Sorry.
No. So you went to Kent then for undergrad, and then you said you studied in France for a while.
Yes, just for the summer. For the summer.
Well, where in France did you?
Well, I was
stay?
at Dijon. At Dijon.
Okay.
Everybody knows it for the mustard, but
Yes.
I didn't know. I never saw it connected to mustard. It was just absolutely beautiful. And there, by the grace of God, likewise, there, I was one of the last people to get involved with that particular program because the other kids were coming from Georgetown University in Washington.
Okay.
I was the only one coming from Kent. So, as it turned out, I never had a chance to correspond to my family. I was going to be living with the family there.
Oh.
At 21 now, and that's still pretty young. I mean, that's pretty young when you've never been out of the country.
Yeah.
Well, I got on this bus, everybody was gone, and there was no other families.
Okay.
And I thought, oh dear. And then I heard this voice coming from somewhere, and the French don't pronounce my first name. It like very, it doesn't work well. They go, Joyce, Joyce. And I heard this call. Here it was a young woman, Noël Dautré was her name.
Okay.
And she was, just in case there were too many students, so it wasn't a family at all. It was just this girl that was 23 and I was 21 and she didn't speak a word of English, and it helped my French because I met all her friends and hung out with her and lived with her.
Oh, wow.
So it was for 6 weeks, and then 6 weeks of school, and then we had some travel time that we just went down to Grenoble, and I just hung out with her friends.
Oh, wow.
So it was great.
That must have been very exciting,
It was
but also
stimulating.
intimidating at the same time because you said she didn't speak English at all.
Any English at all. She said, thank you. But it was exciting.
Oh, wow. Do you teach any other classes besides French, or was French your
No,
great love? And
no.
that was
I do
it?
love French, but
Okay.
I started as an English major and a French minor, and then found out English wasn't like real exciting to me, so I needed another area. And I love athletic things, like doing stuff, like just getting involved doing stuff. So I wound up being a phys ed and health teacher too.
Oh, okay.
So almost my entire career, it was strange how that was. I had a split schedule of phys ed health and French. I mean French 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and sometimes I taught all 5, like I taught at Mid-Park, of course, in Berea.
Where else? What other schools have you taught at?
Prior to Mid-Park, actually I started at Schuler Junior High in Cleveland.
Okay.
Schuler Junior High in Cleveland, and that's a school where I had attended, which was a blast to go back there and teach with my teachers. That was just exciting. And I did teach a half day of French with my original French teacher, which was really an honor.
Wow.
And then a half a day of phys ed and health. But then I started, my husband and we started our family, and I stayed home with the little ones. Then I didn't think I was going back that soon, but then I went back to Columbia Station. One of the teachers there that I got to know through the years, I'd go in for, just to be a guest on in her class and talk French to the kids. But she wound up tragically dying, 36 years old. Carol Mayer was her name. And they asked me to come back and if I might consider coming back and teaching those classes. Well, I knew those students, and my kids were already at a point where my schedule allowed it, so I went back to Columbia Station. Then I decided 3 years later I better hang it up, and then I wound up at Berea in '84, and it was wonderful too. It was really, it's been a blessing.
Nice.
It's been a blessing. Teaching has been a joy.
No, how many times have you been to France?
Just that once, and then we were too busy with our family. And then after I retired, my husband retired a long time ago.
Okay.
And then when I retired, we had never gone back, since he was born in Germany, we had never gone to Germany together.
Okay.
So that first year we went back to Germany and France, but only for like 9 days.
Oh, okay.
Because we still have horses and now grandkids and children and lots of things to do. So we really only we go for 9 days, but we thought it was so wonderful. It was so exciting. We went to Germany for a few days and saw where he was born, and it was exciting.
Nice.
And then went to France, of course. So then the following year we went back to Germany for most of the time, just France a little bit, and then this year we're going to go to, we do have plans right now to go to arrive in Paris in March.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
I'm trusting it will, yeah, trusting I'm
Have you been
excited.
to Paris before?
Oh yes, we, on one of our first trip we went there.
Okay.
It was marvelous. It was really it's marvelous to travel. You know,
it's
just
so
like
much fun.
It's so much fun, and it's so neat to see different cultures and different.
Yes.
Just like you're starting the program in Italian. That's just woohoo! Go, come on! I'm so happy to hear that. What do they say? Bravo. Don't they say bravo in Italian too? I think so.
So, when you were in Paris, what were your favorite landmarks?
In Paris, without a question, Rodin's museum. Most people miss it. Rodin.
Is that in the Musée?
No, it's his own. No, it's his own museum. Rodin, R-O-D-I-N, is the sculptor, and it's. I would encourage
the thinker.
The thinker. You got it. Yes, the thinker. Ooh, yes, you got it. And he also has sculpted a lot of hands. Like you just see the hands, and then like maybe the. A hand with a male and a female being formed in it, like God's creation.
Wow.
Rodin is an incredible, as much as I love everything else, and they were the French people, and everything about it was marvelous, but Rodin's museum was, I have to see it next time I go back. I just have to see it all the time.
That's wonderful. Well, what other areas in France did you go to?
We went to, it's really neat, we went to Versailles. It was closed. We're driving. I'm so
one
thankful.
part of France I haven't seen yet is Versailles.
Yeah. Well, we want to go back when it's open, but maybe this year. We're not sure. We're just in the process of kind of seeing what we're going to do.
Okay.
But my husband drove. We decided, and a lot of people said, "Well, I don't know if you want to drive around Paris."
You drove?
It's crazy. We drove from Paris to. We drove from Paris to the Loire Valley.
Jeez.
And it was wonderful. I mean, it really was a blast. But
was your husband able to get used to the French driving?
No, well, there's no getting used to it. There's no getting used to it. And he would say, like, with the motorcycle, the motorcycles there are so different than the motorcyclists here, where the motorcyclists here really watch out for cars. The motorcyclists there are like, get out of my way, get out of my way. And they'll do that. They'll put their hand down like this, so you move over. He said, boy, they come to the U.S. or trouble.
I remember when my wife and I when we were at the foot of the Arc de Triomphe, because that's the center of where 12 avenues meet.
Yes.
And then we just see those cars going.
It's crazy. Yes. Now, I would tell you, the first time I went there, that's right at the end of the Champs-Élysées, where, like you say, all 12 avenues come in. The first time I went there when I was 21 and totally on my own, the first day in Paris.
You cross?
I got there and I thought, I'm going to get over there. And now you think I would have paid more attention or something. Some teacher must have covered it, but I didn't pay attention, I guess. I stood there and I thought, I'm going to get across. There are other people over there I can cross. And I stood there for the longest time pondering how I was going to get across. So I went to take a step off the curb and through the traffic, and I mean, you know how it was.
Yes.
Like, woohoo, like this. Well, this policeman on a motorcycle, a gendarme on a motorcycle, I mean on a bicycle, not a motorcycle, a bicycle, screamed at me, and he grabbed me. He thought I was trying to commit suicide.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was so, and I always told my students too, because I didn't realize there was an underground, which you probably went down through the underground walkway to get over there. But he was wonderful then too. He wasn't like mean. He was very nice to me, but it was like, duh, yes.
Mrs. Kapui, when did you say you first started teaching at Mid-Park?
1984.
1984.
Yeah, can't get over it. I meet students all over the place, like, and some here in Brunswick, like at the China Eagle or Bueller's or something. I'll meet them, and I'll hear them. Oh, it's such a blessing to me because they'll say, Madame, Madame. And it's such a joy. From Columbia Station, too, one of them came up. We were at a wine tasting. My husband and I were in line at this wine tasting at Stan Hewitt.
Okay.
And I heard, Madame, and it was my one of my wonderful students from Columbia Station.
Oh, wow.
So it's a blessing to see him.
What do you think is the best thing about teaching, and why?
Well, the students, no question, the students. Just watching them grow, watching them learn, especially watching them learn an area that obviously I have a passion for.
Sure.
So to hear them communicate in a different language, and they have fun with it. I mean, it wasn't just drills. I had went to a conference one time, and the fellow was saying language is horizontal. It's not vertical. I mean, you speak it this way. You speak it this way. You don't like to conjugate. Je suis, tu es, il est, elle est. That's fine. There's a place for learning and as a tool, but language is horizontal. We speak it, you know, like in a sentence or whatever it is, but it's in a sentence. We don't speak it in these columns of memorization. So watching them learn, we play a lot of games in class, and watch them grow. I always tell them, I go back now and I sub a little bit, maybe 4 or 5 days a month. Excuse me.
Which
just
school?
In Berea,
In Berea.
and any school in Berea, not the elementary school so much. I take my hats off to those elementary school teachers. I don't know how they do with the little ones. I love the little ones, but give them to me in a gymnasium or on a field trip or not in a classroom.
So you usually teach like high school kids?
Middle school and high school.
Middle school and high school.
Yeah. Oh, they're wonderful. They're wonderful to watch them come through what seems to be like. And one of my teachers, it might have been Monsieur Molinari, might have been him too. I'm pretty sure it was. But he would. I've told many students when they get like frustrated with life, and it happens.
Sure.
But he would say, I'm pretty sure it was him. He said, "Well, life is like a circle." I remember him, and I've done it with so many students. Excuse me. He said, "Life is like a circle, and it starts getting bad, and it gets so bad, you think it can't get any worse." And I'm thinking, this is a man that has really encouraged me. And he said, "And then it does. It gets worse." I remember looking at him, and my life was at that time, for whatever reason, it was like, oh no. But then he said, then it starts getting better. And it gets so good that you think it can't get any better. And it does. And that's the joy of being able to watch these students not just go through it themselves, but then a lot of times they'll nurture each other going through it. And they're a blast. They're a blast. I tell them, don't get old and boring. Don't get old and boring. Some kids are fun when they're 16 and they get boring by the time they're 21. So anyway.
On the other end of that, what do you think is the worst thing about teaching, and why?
Oh.
Is there a downside?
Yeah. Oh, sure. I also coached volleyball.
Okay.
Almost every year I taught. I tried not to coach it the last 3 years because I was busy with my grandkids, and then Mid-Park needed another volleyball coach. Excuse me. And I wound up coaching it the last year, which was good anyway. Okay. But I say that in response to that question because parents can be, and by the greater majority, parents are the wind underneath the wings of students. Okay. Moving on. But then there are some parents that
are not the wind beneath their wings.
Unfortunately, most of it comes, and I truly don't think they don't intend to squelch their children's positive growth, but by not letting the kids take responsibility for what they're doing. Oh, it's somebody else's fault. It's the school's fault. It's their friend's fault. It's everybody else's fault but the child's fault. Sometimes, and then sometimes I would have parents that I could talk to that would come to see that. And because I see things differently, just like with my own children, other people could see things differently than I could as a parent. And that would be good, but the toughest part is really dealing with, or the downside would be dealing with parents that are just like, they dig in their heels and will not let their own children take responsibility. Because then you see and then the kids wind up so dependent as they go on and still blaming mom when they're 35. It's like. So.
Mrs. Kapui, what was a typical day for you like at teaching a French class? How would it start?
At school?
Yeah.
Well, I like to get up early.
Okay.
And, well, if you take, whether it's middle school or high school, like the high school gets up, the classes start about 7:30. But I like to get up early if I was going to grade papers or like tweak my lesson plans or something. It would be early in the morning, early, like maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. So my day would usually start out by having my first class come in, or the kids as they come into the building, half asleep. Not all of them, but most of them.
Okay.
You know, they're not like primed yet. So I like to mess with them just from the standpoint of having fun with them, you know, as they're kind of waking up and getting going. And so most of it in the first period class, and as we went from class to class, I always had duties. Most teachers have duties, and that'll take you into a cafeteria as a teacher, or into a hall, or into the offices, depending on so most teachers have duties, and then you get to see the students in a different light too. So, and then interacting with my colleagues, I have had absolutely wonderful colleagues through the years, and interacting with them, learning ein bisschen Deutsch, of course, I learned that from my husband, and then poquito español from my Spanish colleagues, and and then of course, if a regular day, as we go class to class, French, maybe a French 1 class, a couple of French 1 classes where we would do one thing based on their ability to use the language, and then for French 2, or maybe down even to French 4 or 5, where they're in an area where they're really grabbing hold of some grammar concepts, and I applied things that I learned either in France or from Monsieur Molinari to teaching them a lot of those different things that then leaving school, like as we left school, as I would leave school at any given day. It blesses my heart to hear French in the hallways, or to be able to go see some of the students from phys ed classes. And some, all the students in phys ed classes aren't always so happy about being in phys ed classes. Some of them are, but some of them are not. And some of those students likewise would be using, just like the French kids using their language, some of those students from the other classes would be using, maybe be a little more excited about going out and walking with their friends home, as opposed to always taking the car, or just seeing them, and that was fun.
That's good. Mrs. Kapui, for every guest on the show, I like to play a game of fill in the blank.
All right, okay.
The person that I admire most is blank.
That's a tough one. Do I just get one?
You get, well, maybe 2.
Oh, for different reasons. For different reasons, I guess I would admire different people for different reasons. And without sounding trite, my husband irritates me sometimes. You have no idea how that man can irritate me. But I do admire him.
Sure.
I admire him for being, first of all, even years ago, he had a lot of integrity that I admired about him. He's not a perfect man by any means, and we could, take another program for that. but I do admire him for the kind of husband and father that he has consistently been. Just like even before I came here, he had hopped on his tractor and went over to help my one crazy daughter move dirt and a huge stone, and it really does delight me to see him. Everybody isn't like that. Everybody hasn't been blessed like that, and I know I'm not a perfect wife either. So there's some of that going on, and there's some forgiveness in there.
Mrs. Kapui, can you give any neighborly advice to people who are watching right now in Brunswick Hills, or maybe people watching on the internet?
No, surely. The best I can, and this is not minimizing at all. We spend a lot of time in the scriptures, my husband and I. So one of the things that I delight in, I didn't used to understand or know anything about the Bible, but thankfully, and he didn't either. He came to start getting interested in it about 6 or 7 years after I did. But it is a joy now. And one of the things, as far as being a neighbor, or for that matter, any interaction, but being a neighbor is what the Bible does say about it. And it's just to love your neighbor.
Okay.
Love your neighbor as you love yourself. I mean, and that's
I think that's excellent advice.
really, it really is, because you know it can calm. A lot of times we get irritated at people, especially if you're in contact with them. You can be irritated about a lot of things.
Sure.
But we're irritating ourselves, aren't we? So we're also irritating, and if you love them, you know, put them in a special place. Kind of consider them a little more than maybe you consider yourself sometime.
Mrs. Joyce Kapui, thank you for coming down to the studios today.
I can't tell you what a joy it's been. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for coming down.
My pleasure.
My name is Ron Falconi. I am the host of Meet Your Neighbor, and I wanted to thank Mrs. Joyce Kapui for coming down to the studios today. I doubt there's anything more profound to be said, but once again, my name is Ron Falconi, and I am signing off. Au revoir.
Au revoir, monsieur.
And arrivederci.